Prologue. Tintalia, weakened by a festering wound, struggles to fly through the cold weather as she heads back to the rain wilds to seek aid from her elderling servants, Rain and Malta. Left alone by Icefire, who has no further need of her after mating, Tintalia realizes she must rely on herself for survival. Her journey is painful, and her attempts to take off are hindered by her injury, but she perseveres. Despite enduring agonizing pain, she manages to lift herself into the sky, determined to make it home. Meanwhile, Rael in Bingtown contemplates a prestigious offer from his uncle. In Chapter 1, Alise awakens in a cold cabin, feeling purposeless and disillusioned with her past life's work. Realizing her studies on Elderlings and dragons are now obsolete with their re-emergence, she rejects her past dependency on validation from others, including Leftrin, her absent lover. Determined to find her own purpose, she ventures into the forest, embracing self-reliance. Along the way, she encounters a rare black pard, a giant cat, and in a moment of fear and resolve, scares it off by making herself appear larger. Triumphant, she returns with newfound confidence and a sense of ownership over her life. In Chapter 2, Tats watches his dragon Fente and other dragons struggle to fly across the river to Kelsingra. Ranculos, thought to have drowned, emerges on the far shore, sparking joy and celebration among his keeper Harakin and the other keepers. Sestican also manages a rough but successful landing in Kelsingra, increasing hope for the dragon's journey. Tats reflects on the growing bonds between the keepers and the freedom they have, unlike in their old lives. Alise, who feels isolated as a human without a dragon bond, finds her purpose in helping with practical tasks, determined to make her own place. In Chapter 3, Centaura asserts her dominance over the dragons, clashing with Spit until Kalo intervenes. Thymara reflects on her strained feelings toward Tats, whose connection with Jerd troubles her. While hunting, she and Tats encounter a wolf pack. Centaura and Fente drive the wolves away, securing the kill. Tats suggests the bridge as a potential launching platform for dragons to cross the river, sparking hope for their improved flight and hunting. Tats' spontaneous kiss leaves Thymara conflicted, adding tension to their relationship. Meanwhile, Selden, disheveled and ill, is sold as a dragon man in Chalced to Chancellor Elec, hinting at his bleak fate. In Chapter 4, Hest and Redding arrive in Kasserich to meet covertly with Chalcedean traders. Annoyed by Redding's complaints, Hest manipulates him into delivering a risky message, hoping to deflect blame if things go wrong. Meanwhile, Leftrin, heading upriver, sees Centaura the dragon flying ahead, which strengthens his hope as he approaches Kelsingra, while an imposing vessel follows closely. On board, Rain and Malta struggle with their sick child, Fran. Malta's sister, Tiliman, offers them a chance to rest, hinting at her new relationship with Hennessy. Exhausted, Rain and Malta agree to take a much-needed break. In Chapter 5, Cedric and Carson guide the dragons down a steep slope toward a bridge. Relpta hesitates, but eventually glides across the river, showcasing her flying abilities. Cedric shares a deep bond with Relpta, pushing her to overcome her fear. Meanwhile, Hest finds himself in a grim situation when he discovers Redding dead in a hut. The Chalcedean reveals that Hest's failure to follow orders has resulted in more deaths and demands dragon parts. Hest is further coerced into his role in the Chalcedean scheme involving the Kupras family and dragon-related intrigue. In Chapter 6, the Duke receives the sick elderling Selden Vestrit from Chancellor Elec, planning to keep him under guard due to his dragon heritage. Selden requests a ransom letter but is not trusted. Meanwhile, Tintalia, a dragon, lands near Trehaug, frustrated by humans' disrespect and their denial of the Kupras family's existence. She learns they may be in Kelsingra. In the sky, dragons, including Mercor and Centaura, emerge in response to Spit's call, causing chaos for a Bingtown ship. The dragons spar and show their immense power. Meanwhile, Kefria Vestrit sends a worried letter about Malta's silence and the mysterious Dragon Boy rumor. In Chapter 7, Thymara and the Keepers settle in Kelsingra, exploring the Dragon City. Thymara contemplates Centaura's mention of a lost resource, silver, and her bond with the dragon. Tensions rise between her and companions Rapskull and Tats, especially over romantic feelings. Tats reveals disturbing experiences with memory stones, which have the ability to remember and repair themselves. The group discusses the need to map the city. Thymara struggles with the idea of being consumed by the past, as memories of others could take over her identity, clouding her future. In Chapter 8, Alise prepares for Leftrin and the Tarman's return to Kelsingra. While Leftrin struggles to dock, Malta, worried about her child, is guided by Alise to a room in the city. Alise helps Malta settle in and is asked to find Rain and check on Tiliman, who stayed with the ship. Alise's thoughts turn to the challenges ahead as she walks through the city and eventually reunites with Leftrin. Their reunion is filled with emotion, and Leftrin expresses his deep longing for her. They discuss the uncertainties ahead, including potential conflicts between humans and dragons. In Chapter 9, Hest endures captivity aboard a Chalcedean ship, reflecting on his forced role in Redding's death and the humiliation of his situation. Isolated and tormented, he suffers physically and emotionally, knowing his compliance is his only defense. Despite the brutality, Hest tries to avoid dwelling on the greater impact of his actions. The ship encounters another vessel attacked by dragons, and Hest realizes he will soon be led into dangerous territory. Meanwhile, Tintalia, weakened and infected, continues her desperate flight toward Kelsingra, fueled by hope for the survival of dragonkind despite her declining health. In Chapter 10, Malta seeks help from the dragons to save her dying son, Ephron. Mercor explains that only Tintalia can help, as the marks on Ephron are tied to her. Tintalia, however, has not helped, and Mercor reveals the Rainwilds is suffering due to dragon-induced changes. Malta's hopes diminish when Mercor admits Tintalia may not help. Meanwhile, Lord Dargan, with his men, plans to attack Tintalia, intending to kill the dragon and deliver proof to the Duke. Despite her injuries, Tintalia fiercely defends herself, sending a desperate plea to distant dragons while facing the humans' assault. In Chapter 11, Carson and Cedric explore Kelsingra and discover a secretive district with a silver well. Cedric recognizes it from his dreams and realizes it's central to Kelsingra's existence. Carson deduces that silver, a valuable resource, was hidden even from most Elderlings, emphasizing its significance. Meanwhile, Tats and Thymara discuss their relationship, with Tats expressing a desire for exclusivity. Thymara begins to consider a future with him, and they both feel drawn to the discovery of the Silver Well. This chapter furthers the understanding of Kelsingra's mysteries and deepens the characters' personal connections. In Chapter 12, Hest grows disillusioned with the hunt for Tintalia, fearing the Lord's wrath if he speaks out. Tintalia plans an assault, causing chaos and a shipwreck. Meanwhile, the Keepers search for silver to save the dragons. When a trace of silver is found, hope is revived, though it may be gone. Mercor explains that without silver, the dragons will lose their memories. Rapskal, consumed by the need to protect Tintalia, tries to rally the group to fly to her aid. Thymara struggles to keep Rapskal grounded, realizing he's influenced by Teletor's memories. The chapter ends with a sense of impending loss. In Chapter 13, the crew searches for the dragon's carcass but finds no trace, and Lord Dargan believes it was carried downstream. They encounter a group of dragons, and Lord Dargan orders an attack, but the crew flees when the dragon's overwhelming presence terrifies them. The dragon's judgment results in the crew's servitude, and a Chalcedean defies them, getting devoured. Hest realizes their mission is futile. Meanwhile, Alise, obsessed with finding a way to protect their future children, risks her sanity by touching a memory stone. Leftrin comforts her, promising to find a way to restore magic to the Elderlings. In Chapter 14, Selden is forcibly taken from his bed by guards and brought to the Duke despite his illness. The Duke, nearing death, drinks Selden's blood to regain strength. The Chancellor watches with disdain, aware of the Duke's desperation. The Duke plans to visit Lady Chasm, knowing he must tread carefully with her due to her power. Meanwhile, Selden, weakened from the ordeal, converses with Lady Chasm, who is cautious about the Duke's promises. She is offered rewards, including the chance to become the Duke's heir, in exchange for her continued loyalty and care of the Dragon Man. In Chapter 15, Captain Leftrin rejects Skelly's dangerous plan to descend into the well for silver retrieval. Dragons return with 2 captured ships and prisoners, including traitors and slaves. Rapskal announces the fate of the prisoners: execution for the guilty and labor for the rest. Leftrin opposes Rapskal's decision, arguing for alternative punishment. Among the captives, Hest observes Kelsingra and the banished disguised as Elderlings. He notices Alise with a coarse riverman, and his jealousy grows. He spots Cedric, transformed by magic into a confident, handsome figure. Hest's anger deepens as Cedric's connection with another man becomes clear. In Chapter 16, Tensions over the captive's fate escalate, with Carson advocating for humane treatment and others pushing for harsher measures. Alise rejects her estranged husband Hest after Cedric exposes his infidelity, strengthening her resolve. Malta faces the worsening health of her child, while the group debates clemency versus punishment for the prisoners. The supposed death of Tintaglia is revealed, but Malta believes the dragon is alive and hurries to find her, hoping for a miracle to save her child. Leftrin reflects on his growing feelings for Alise and the sacrifices being made by others around him. In Chapter 17, Thymara and Rapskal explore the ruins of Kelsingra, where Rapskal urges Thymara to retrieve silver from a well to aid Tintaglia and the dragons. After facing danger and discovering remnants of the past, Thymara uncovers a glyph that activates a hidden valve. The dragons drink from the well, and Thymara devises a plan to fill buckets with silver for Tintaglia. Meanwhile, Malta and Rain care for their son Ephron and worry about Tintaglia's fate. Tintaglia is coated in silver, healing her wounds, and soon she takes flight, signaling her recovery. In Chapter 18, Hest manipulates Davy, promising him a wealthy future, but their encounter is interrupted when Cedric confronts Hest, exposing his manipulative nature. Cedric strikes Hest, bruising his knuckles, and finds solace in Carson's care. The dragons signal an approaching stranger, and Cedric identifies the black dragon as Icefire. Hest, still fixated on controlling Davy's dragon, attempts to dominate the creature but is met with rejection. The dragon, now named Blue Glory, nearly kills Hest after a failed confrontation. Hest's arrogance and desire for power lead to his downfall as the dragon maims him, leaving him screaming in horror. In Chapter 19, Thymara and Tats witness Icefire's wrath as Rapskal, now in armor, offers his service. The dragons decide on war, and Tintaglia warns the keepers about human brutality. Alise and Leftrin discuss leaving to warn others, while Thymara confronts Rapskal, realizing their relationship has ended. The dragons prepare for battle, and the keepers begin to gear up. As the dragons take flight, Thymara, Tats, and Malta watch, contemplating their uncertain futures. The group faces a sense of loss, and Carson urges the others to stay focused on the work that needs to be done. In Chapter 20, Thymara struggles with manipulating silver using dragonhide gauntlets, while Carson and Harrican work on sealing the silver reservoir. Realizing it will take days, Thymara continues her nightly tower vigils, hoping for returning dragons. Tats joins her, sharing Rapskal's belief that Amarinda and Teletor were fated lovers. Thymara visits a house tied to her memories of Amarinda and Teletor, leaving behind a pendant to sever her past. Meanwhile, Alise and Leftrin return to Kelsingra, encountering a tense scene with the Chalcedean captives. The captives of Siruza. Fate takes a tragic turn when they are thrown into the river, leading to a quiet silence. In Chapter 21, Rain grows frustrated with Rapskal's increasing military authority as the group heads toward Chalced. Tensions rise, and Rain is injured in a dragon attack. Rapskal briefs them on the impending battle, noting the dangers of Chalced's defenses. Meanwhile, Dragon's presence overwhelms the city, causing panic. As they prepare for the inevitable confrontation, Selden and Chassim witness the dragon's destructive strategy to destroy the Duke's stronghold. Tintaglia leads the assault, with Selden narrowly escaping death when he is rescued by Rain. The chapter concludes with Selden writing a letter to his family, describing his experiences. In Chapter 22, the discussion aboard the Paragon focuses on the political instability in Chalced and Kelsingra, with updates on Selden's recovery and the new Duchess of Chalced's harsh laws. Cedric receives a letter from Volum Corsair, asking about Hest's whereabouts, but Cedric dismisses it. Meanwhile, Thymara and Tats climb a hill, watching dragons fight for mates in the sky. Thymara experiences a breakthrough, managing to fly across a ravine, but Tats reacts coldly, making her feel more alienated. Later, Tats leaps the ravine to join her, and they share a passionate moment, their relationship taking a new turn. Epilogue. Tintaglia awakens, feeling a strong urgency as memories stir within her. She senses Kalo approaching, and together they prepare to leave for the nesting beaches. Tensions rise between Kalo and Icefire, as Icefire insists only the sire should guard the nest. Tintaglia decides Kalo will accompany her, disregarding Icefire's objections. Icefire leaves, and Tintaglia reflects on the future of dragonkind. In Kelsingra, Selden and the Elderlings celebrate Tintaglia's departure, singing her praise. Tintaglia takes flight, ready to begin the next generation as the voices of her people and dragons echo in her wake.